Hello guys and welcome to another episode of Power Rangers Lore. So this week we have something special. Every day will be dedicated to another ranger of the RPM Power Rangers, starting from Red and we'll be going down there. So as you know, we'll be talking about Scott Truman, the Red Ranger. Now unlike other series that have been going on through Power Rangers, we have a lot more backstory for these characters that normally would get, because it was supposedly the final season in Disney's run and they wanted to go full out for it. So they had very complex interwoven storylines and a lot of emotional play-ons. So let's get into Scott Truman. Scott Truman is the second son of Colonel Mason Truman. He served along with his brother Marcus Truman in the Air Support, which basically is the Air Force, but after the invasion of Vengeance, I think it was just called Air Support because nothing was left. Countries, people, everyone was being killed by the Vengeance virus, and it is very heavily hinted at that nuclear weapons were used against humanity. Now, all of technology was basically taken away from them except for what was left in the domed city of Corinth. So you would first see Scott in the Battle of Corinth, where he is basically crashed his aircraft in the battle and is saved by the future Yellow Ranger. Now, the two would make it out alive because she had skills in the motorcycle, essentially, and would save his life and get him out of there. However, his brother would not make it, and that would forever hurt his father. Now, unlike most series where they have the brother come back in some way, Marcus is never seen again. And it kind of weighs down on the father-son relationship between Mason, or Colonel Mason, and Scott for a long time throughout the series, to the point where he's very cold to his son for basically, why did you survive? And he didn't. Because Scott was always in the shadow of his brother. Now, I think he probably followed his brother through thick and thin. His brother probably loved him, but was probably saying you could go through it all, but it's never really shown too much interaction between the two, besides the fact of like a few seconds before the battle began. Now, Scott would later be recruited by Dr. K for the Red Ranger RPM series. He would lead the Rangers from then on out, but however, it would only be a crew of three. The three would be Summer, being the Yellow Ranger, the one who saved his life, who's already displayed very good skills, and would basically be kind of the female character of the whole series. Also, then would be Flynn Mcallister. He would be the Blue Series Ranger and would keep things going from there. The three would work very well together and push the forces of evil back farther and farther, but never maintaining much of a hold besides keeping the battle outside of Corinth. Now, unlike other series, their identities is not hidden. Basically, everyone knows that the three are Rangers, and Scott kind of walks around, talks to kids, gives them examples of how to be safe, and the like. So that's very different from most series, where they're basically the identity of the Rangers has to be hidden. But everyone knows his father is technically the lead military officer of the Dome, and he's known by K. The only one who doesn't know whose identity is who is Dr. K. She kind of remains hidden the entire time until about a fourth of the way through the series. It's revealed who she is. However, the three Rangers are able to keep it back together, and he would later be piloting the Eagle Racer, which is basically just a giant race car with eagle eyes. Now, it'd be funny if it wasn't true, but he later points it out in a very, very meta-like feel and goes, "Why does my car have googly eyes? Big googly eyes." That is quoted directly from the series, and it's pretty funny because it's kind of in a big Power Ranger going, "Why would they need those eyes?" And she replies, "It's optic sensors. They're needed," which is not giving an answer. Now, midway through the series, we get some little closure going on between father and son, when Dr. K would need a special reflex thruster for the Croc Carrier Zord to function unmanned. Since they are already down a bunch of people and humanity's on its last verge, they need every chance they can get in every little piece of item. However, they don't know where one is at, except for Scott only knows of one place there could be, outside the city with his brother's crashed jet. Now, he would have to sneak out and steal the coordinates from his father of the last known location of the jet, and he would do so and retrieve the much needed thruster along with something else, something much more important, but it would come at a cost. You see, they would be fighting the monster of the week, and it nearly be just quote-unquote destroyed / killed. But what was brought back from with that thruster is also a letter of recommendation written by his brother to their father that he wanted his brother, Scott Truman, to be the leader of the 2nd Eagle Squadron. Kind of like a great motivational plus that showed that his brother really cared and was watching his career with great enthusiasm. He was supposed to send it to his father, but never got that far before the battle commenced, and he died. Now, that is some pretty good closure. It would still take a long time for his father's approval, however, but we'll get back to that pretty soon. Now, through the rest of the series, Scott and Dylan would have a bit of a conflict of who the actual leader of the group is. While the Red Ranger is normally the leader of the group, Dylan didn't like that idea. Now, Dylan is the Black Ranger and kind of a lone wolf type of character. We'll talk about him later this week, but the major issue here is he didn't need Scott to tell him what to do, and he kind of had his main backstory going on as well. Now, Scott and him would clash several times. Who's the fastest racer? Who's the better leader? And basically, who is the better person? And also, it almost seemed like Scott was trying to get with Summer at some point early in the series, but quickly gave up as he realized that Summer was going for someone else. The dark and brooding lone wolf himself, Dylan. Now, it seemed there that Scott did not have any love interest per se for the rest of the series, but he did have a basically common cause and friendly rivalry with Dylan once they came to understand each other. Now, they both were very similar in characters to the point where they didn't really have any good fatherly figures, Dylan not having any whatsoever or any memory of one, while Scott had his very aloof and cold father. And also going on there, they both have a very deep love for their cars. Almost weirdly love. Weird love. Now, it would keep going throughout the series where they would clash heads a few times, even getting to the point where they almost caused the whole city to fall apart because they refused to work together. However, as time went on, they would come to know each other much better and come to trust each other and save each other's lives on multiple different occasions. But for the rest of the series, we would get on to what was Scott's major motivation, getting his father to notice him. Now, he would eventually get his father to notice him. However, at the last second before his dad actually notices him, he gives the medal to Jem, another ranger. He not looks at him, but then proceeds to give him the Medal of Valor to Jem. Kind of hurts him deeply, but I mean, kind of like very much hurts him. And he basically is brooding for most of the episode going, why? Now, later on in the series, we get to find out the reason why. Now, this would be a long group of episodes that would start with basically Scott and Jem not working well together and kind of, well, have an issue of who's recognized by the father. But Jem would come to understand that it was not Scott's fault, and his father is kind of a dick. But going forward from there, basically, what would really get the father, Colonel Truman, to notice Scott was the fact that there was an escape. It looks like some survivors or escapees from a prison camp has been running amok through the barren wastelands outside of Corinth. Scott would lead a group out there and try to find them and hold back the tide of grinders while saving a much-needed leader, Commander Murdoch. They would basically help save him and get him out of there, and that Murdoch would tell them later on about what's going on and about the other slave factions going out there. Be very interesting little conversation to the point where he would go fight Vengex by himself and nearly get destroyed, but would destroy the 80% powered up Vengex at the time. However, Vengex is not easily defeated and basically just keeps coming back for a while. Eventually, it would finally happen, but only after he realized that he was kind of being selfish when he was trying to look for a medal from his father's eye rather than just trying to be heroic. That would be a great turning point for the character, that is Scott. And basically, when he did receive a medal, he would give it back to his father and tell him one day he'd take it when he honestly deserved it. His father would accept that and basically make him commander of the Eagle Squadron after Vengex is defeated. However, was Vengex actually defeated? Now, we would see at the end that Vengex would be inside the Red Ranger's morpher and go from there. We don't know what the future has to hold because it's technically an alternate dimension. Now, what else are we going to talk about with this? He did cross over in Samurai Adventures. The reason he was not shown in the series because of some legal battles of who actually owned Power Rangers and the rights to that. Because after Disney sold it off, it was about a 2-year period before basically Nickelodeon bought it. Well, Simon bought it and then basically was able to produce it through Nickelodeon to show it on their site. Scott and also at the same time the leader of the Shiba House were forced to work together, and it was a conflict of interest. They were kind of like spelled against each other to be major rivals, which is not usual for Jaden, who's very self-sacrificing, but eventually they would work together and defeat each other. Now there's kind of a flirt on with Emily of the Samurai Power Rangers, but that was basically it. He would again show up later in Megaforce with the legendary battle of the Legendary Rangers, but would not be shown to face again. One last time, he would show up in Beast Morphers along with his other Rangers, but again, no major head removal at all. Which basically his helmet never came off, and it was a quick and done thing. Dr. K would serve more in that series, but hey, she's easier to show rather than the others. Now, in the Shadow Grid, he is shown very quickly going to another dimension. It is basically shown there that it is another dimension entirely, and there are multiple dimensions of Power Rangers, so that is pretty cool. Now, his connection to other characters, he has a pretty basically brother-sisterly relationship between him and Finn, and as well as Summer. Now, I think at first Summer and him were probably a bit closer, and then Summer kind of like fully turned into looking at him as a brother-like character, while she turned all her love and affection to the new rival and brooding character that is Dylan. Finn and him kind of like got along, but didn't really have any major issues. They didn't really have any major crossovers. Now, him and Ziggy, very few characters actually liked Ziggy when he first showed up, and he was kind of more of the comic relief of the series, but would later on become a major key player. Jem and Gemma, he kind of didn't like because he thought they were utterly reckless and would not listen to his leadership. And kind of, as I said earlier, him and Jem had a major issue there going on. Now, him and Dylan, major rivalry, and we'll keep it at that. Now, the rest of this series would be him getting his own special armor set, and as well as new Zords. But that would be basically it. That would be going on from that time period. He'd be the heir of the entire series and would be a key figure to defeating Vengex. Or if they really did defeat Vengex, a way for them to come back. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon in the next episode later this week.